Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a really big one, a true paradox of our times. It's this tension between artificial intelligence, the stuff that makes our lives easier, like finding the fastest route or knowing if you need an umbrella tomorrow.
The convenience factor.
Exactly. Versus this other side, the invisible part, how all this tech is constantly gathering and chewing through our personal data.
Yeah, it's a huge balancing act, isn't it? Innovation versus privacy.
That's precisely it. And that's our mission for this deep dive, exploring that intersection. Specifically here in India, we'll be looking at AI, the fundamental right to privacy, the massive Aadhaar system, and India's new data protection laws, the DPDPA Act and the 2025 draft rules.
It's complex stuff.
It is, but we want to cut through that complexity for you, give you the key insights, maybe some surprising facts, and really unpack what it all means for you.
It's so important because, let's face it, our lives are digital now. Understanding who has our data and why is just critical.
Absolutely. And, navigating this kind of digital world, especially with the massive amounts of data involved, really highlights the need for strong defenses. That's why we're grateful to have www.cisomarketplace.com sponsoring this deep dive. They're all about providing those top-tier cybersecurity solutions.
Very relevant sponsor for today's topic.
Definitely. Okay, so let's start with the basics, just to make sure we're grounded. AI, artificial intelligence. How do we define that simply?
Okay, simply put, AI is basically intelligence shown by machines, by computer systems. It's about making machines do things that usually need human smarts.
Like what kind of things?
Oh, things like understanding language, recognizing pictures, making predictions based on data, learning new stuff, solving problems, even controlling physical movement sometimes.
So it's more than just calculation, it's mimicking human thinking, in a way.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
And it's built on a mix of technologies. You hear terms like deep learning, big data analytics, robotics, even blockchain, and the Internet of Things, IoT. But the absolute key ingredient, the fuel for all of this, is data. Lots and lots of data.
Always comes back to data.
Always. AI systems need huge volumes. Public data, private data, the stuff we generate using apps, websites, you name it. The algorithms crunch through this data to find patterns, solve problems, sometimes even sort out sensitive personal info automatically.
And we really do encounter AI constantly, often without thinking about it.
Oh, absolutely. Think about your phone. Google Maps finding your route, that's AI. Weather apps, AI.
Ride sharing like Ola or Uber.
Yep, AI matching you with drivers. Social media feeds, Facebook, Instagram, they use AI to decide what you see. Online shopping recommendations.
Dear Alexa.
Smart assistants, online payments, it's everywhere.
Okay, so the benefits are clear convenience, efficiency, but this heavy reliance on our personal data is where the problem lies, right? The core dilemma.
That's the crux of it. AI offers so much, but its easy access to personal data throws up big legal and ethical questions. We're constantly trying to find that balance. How do we push technology forward without trampling on fundamental rights, especially privacy?
Which brings us nicely to that right. Before we get deeper into AI and Aadhaar, we need to understand how India views privacy. It's not a brand new idea, is it?
Not at all, globally speaking. The idea of privacy, from the Latin privatas meaning separate, is ancient, that need for a personal space.
Justice Brandeis called it the right to be left alone.
He did. And in India, Justice Nariman linked it to dignity, autonomy over our own choices, and control over how our information gets shared. It's about personal integrity.
So how did India get to recognizing it as a fundamental right? Was there a specific case?
Well, it was a journey. Back in 1962, the Karak Singh case, the Supreme Court actually said privacy wasn't fundamental, even while finding night visits by police violated liberty. A bit strange. Then in 1975, the Gulbin case introduced this idea of a compelling state interest. Basically, your privacy could be overridden if the state had a really strong reason. But importantly, it also broadened privacy to cover sensitive stuff like medical records. So, progress.
A gradual shift, then.
Yes. And cases like the PUCL telephone tapping case in '97 further cemented privacy in communications. But the huge one, the landmark, was Swamy v. Union in 2017.
That's the one everyone talks about.
Absolutely. It definitively declared the right to privacy is a fundamental right under Article 21 of the Constitution. Crucially, it set tests. Any state interference must be legal, necessary, and proportionate. And it stressed that individual consent is key for collecting data. That really changed the game.
Okay, so with that foundation laid, let's talk Aadhaar. India's massive identity system. Can you give us the basics?
Sure. Aadhaar is, it's the world's largest digital identity program, a 12-digit unique number for residents, obtained that's the key word, voluntarily based on biometrics.
Biometrics meaning?
Your photo, all 10 fingerprints, and 2 iris scans, plus basic demographic info like name, address, date of birth. It's managed by the UIDAI, the Unique Identification Authority of India. We're talking over 1.2 billion people enrolled by 2019, just staggering numbers.
And the initial goals were pretty lofty, right? What was it supposed to achieve?
The big promise was identification for everyone, especially helping meet that UN goal for legal identity, but also huge pushes for financial inclusion, getting millions, particularly the poor,
Right.
into the banking system.
Right, I remember that push.
And streamlining how government benefits are delivered, the direct benefit transfer or DBT system. Things like LPG subsidies, food rations through PDS. The idea was to cut out fraud, corruption, leakages. They claimed billions saved.
So how does it work, practically? Enrollment and then...
It's essentially 2 stages. Enrollment is where they collect your demographic and biometric data that goes into a central database, the CIDR, where they deduplicate to make sure everyone only has one Aadhaar number. Then there's authentication. When you need to prove who you are, you can use your number, plus maybe demographic details, or a fingerprint, iris scan, an OTP to your phone, or a mix.
Now, you mentioned it was voluntary, but there's been a lot of debate about that.
That's been a major point of contention. The Supreme Court repeatedly, in 2013, 2015, 2018, said Aadhaar is voluntary and shouldn't be mandatory for basic services like bank accounts, mobile phones, school admissions.
But in practice...
In practice, it became almost impossible to access many essential public and private services without it. Welfare schemes, tax filings, sometimes even getting a SIM card. So legally voluntary, but functionally pretty much mandatory for many people.
That's sheer scale. Over 1 billion people's biometric data in one system. It just screams cybersecurity risk, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And protecting that kind of sensitive, centralized data is a monumental challenge. That's where having the right security posture becomes non-negotiable.
Which is exactly the kind of challenge our sponsor, www.cisomarketplace.com, helps organizations tackle finding those robust solutions to protect massive data sets.
Makes sense.
So we have AI hungry for data and Aadhaar, this giant pool of personal sensitive data. What happens when you put them together? What are the risks we're looking at?
That's where things get really concerning. AI's power lies in finding patterns, often subtle ones, that we might not see. The risk is it can do this using our data in ways we're totally unaware of.
Like building profiles.
Exactly. Stitching together data from, say, street cameras, your online purchases, your social media activity. AI can potentially build these incredibly detailed 360-degree profiles of citizens. That's a huge privacy intrusion.
And specific AI tech like facial recognition has been controversial.
Very much so. Facial recognition technology, FRT. Look, it has potential benefits like finding missing kids. But we've also seen states use it for widespread surveillance, tracking people at protests, identify individuals, often without any consent.
Interfering with basic rights like assembly?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
It enables pervasive monitoring of everyday life by governments, which raises serious questions, even if the stated goal is law enforcement or security.
And has the Aadhaar system itself proven vulnerable? Have there been actual breaches?
Unfortunately, yes. The record isn't great. The World Economic Forum, in its 2019 Global Risks Report, actually called the 2018 Aadhaar incident the largest breach, potentially exposing records of all 1.1 billion registered citizens at the time.
All 1.1 billion? That's hard to comprehend.
It included names, addresses, phone numbers, photos. Then there were reports of criminals selling database access for, like, RS-500, about $7 US. We also saw hundreds of government websites accidentally leaking Aadhaar details publicly.
Even if they take it down, the data's out there.
Exactly. Once it's leaked, it's out. There were specific incidents, too. The Jharkhand government site leaking details, reports of banks and others accessing the database improperly, security flaws found in the official mobile app.
And isn't there an issue with insider threats, too?
That's a critical vulnerability in any large centralized system.
Yeah.
Even if data is encrypted, the decryption keys often have to reside somewhere accessible within the organization, in this case UIDAI. If someone internally has access or there's collusion, they could potentially decrypt and misuse data. It really highlights the need for strong internal controls and maybe independent audits.
Beyond security breaches, there's also the criticism that Aadhaar excludes people, especially the vulnerable.
Yes, this is a really serious concern. The biometrics themselves can be exclusionary. Iris scans might not work well for people with cataracts, and India has a high rate of cataracts.
Right.
Fingerprints can be worn down for manual laborers or the elderly. The construction workers, farmers, this leads to authentication failures.
What kind of failure rates are we talking?
Some reports were quite high. One in 2018 suggested a 12% error rate in biometric authentication. A Delhi survey in 2021 found 40% exclusion from food rations due to authentication issues. 40%
Wow, so the very people it was meant to help.
can be locked out. We've heard stories of marginalized groups, manual scavengers needing rehabilitation, women rescued from trafficking, people with disabilities seeking skills training being denied essential services because of Aadhaar issues. The system designed to include inadvertently excludes.
And the fact that Aadhaar is the single number linked across so many different databases, what's the risk there?
The risk is profiling and surveillance on a massive scale because it's a single global identifier used everywhere: banking, mobile phones, welfare, taxes. It makes it much easier to link disparate data sets together. UIDI itself might not control all these databases, but the number acts as a key, potentially creating a very detailed picture of an individual's life, movements, and activities.
It paints a worrying picture of vulnerability. Protecting data at this scale is clearly paramount.
Absolutely critical.
And for organizations, especially CISOs, facing these kinds of monumental data protection challenges, finding the right expertise and tools is essential. Again, a place like our sponsor, www.cisomarketplace.com, is designed to connect them with those needed solutions.
Good resource to have.
So, faced with these challenges, the power of AI, the vulnerabilities of Aadhaar, the fundamental right to privacy India has brought in new legislation. Let's talk about the Digital Personal Data Protection Act, the DPDP Act of 2023, and the 2025 draft rules. What's the main goal here?
The DPDP Act is really India's attempt to create a modern legal framework specifically for digital personal data. The main goal is to ensure people have rights over their data, that its processing is fair and transparent, and that organizations are held accountable. It's about giving residents more control.
And the 2025 draft rules, how do they fit in?
Think of the Act as the what's and why, and the rules as the how. They're meant to operationalize the Act, to provide the practical details on how companies, the data fiduciaries, need to comply, and what individuals the data principals can expect. They add the specifics.
Okay, so what are some key specifics in these rules? What mechanisms are being put in place?
Well, first, clearer rules on consent and notice. Companies need to give you a clear, standalone notice, not buried deep in terms and conditions, explaining why they want your data, and what your rights are. And it needs to be in English or another official Indian language.
More transparency up front. What about kids or people with disabilities?
Big focus there. The rules demand verifiable consent from a parent or guardian. This pushes for privacy by design, building privacy from the start, not as an afterthought. They're looking at methods like using special tokens or verifying legal IDs to confirm parental consent.
And I heard about something unique called consent managers.
Yes, this is quite innovative, actually. Different from GDPR in Europe, consent managers are supposed to be independent entities registered with the new Data Protection Board. They act on your behalf, the individual's behalf, to manage your consents across different platforms, giving consent, reviewing it, withdrawing it.
So like an agent for my data permissions.
Sort of, yeah. It's an attempt to shift the power dynamic, give you more active control instead of just clicking accept all the time.
Interesting. What about companies handling lots of sensitive data?
They get special attention. They're called significant data fiduciaries, or SDFs. Think big tech, large banks, major hospitals maybe. Based on the volume and sensitivity of data they handle, they have extra obligations.
Like what?
Things like mandatory data protection impact assessments, basically, analyzing the privacy risks of new projects. They also need to have independent audits and appoint a dedicated data protection officer, someone responsible for compliance internally.
We talked about Aadhaar breaches. How do the new rules handle data breaches generally?
There are stricter reporting rules now. If a company has a breach, they need to notify the Data Protection Board and the affected individuals promptly. A detailed report is required within 72 hours of discovery.
Okay.
One point people are discussing, though, is that there's currently no materiality threshold. It seems every breach, big or small, might need to be reported.
Every single one. That sounds burdensome.
It could be. It might overwhelm the regulators and create a lot of noise for businesses reporting very minor incidents. We'll have to see how that plays out in practice, but it definitely signals a tougher stance.
And the rules presumably mandate specific security measures, too.
Yes, they outline minimum technical and organizational safeguards. Things like encryption, pseudonymization, or masking data where possible, access controls, keeping logs, regular security checkups, basic but essential security hygiene now mandated.
Navigating all this, the DPDP Act, these new rules, the security requirements, is going to be a major undertaking for businesses.
Absolutely. Compliance will require significant effort and investment.
And finding the right guidance and tools to build that strong privacy posture and ensure compliance will be key. Our sponsor, www.cisomarketplace.com, offers resources precisely for that kind of challenge.
A necessary support system in this new landscape.
So, wrapping this up, this deep dive really underscores that huge tension we started with. You have the incredible potential of AI, the ambition of projects like Aadhaar,
And the absolute necessity of protecting individual privacy, a fundamental right. We've traced India's path, the legal evolution culminating in Puttaswamy, and now the DPDP Act trying to codify protections for the digital age.
It's clear this isn't a static issue. It requires constant adjustment, constant vigilance as technology races ahead.
Yeah, the digital future is exciting, but it demands we stay awake, both as individuals and as a society.
It leaves us with some big questions, doesn't it? As our lives get more and more intertwined with digital systems, how much control are we, really willing to give up for convenience or security?
That's the multi-billion-dollar question. And maybe what else besides laws do we need? What other tools or maybe societal norms can genuinely empower people in this age where information is everything?
Yeah.
How do we protect our digital selves effectively?
Definitely something for all of us to think about. We really encourage you, our listeners, to consider your own digital life and stay engaged with this vital conversation about data, AI, and privacy.
Stay informed. Stay critical.
And a huge thank you to our sponsor, www.cisomarketplace.com, for supporting this deep dive. They're playing their part in helping organizations build a more secure digital future.